Hey, what's going on everyone? It's Sean from All Things EV, and this video is everything you need to know about the Model Y event that took place last night. I want to start off with some of the basic specs that they announced at the presentation, just in case you missed that last night, were sleeping, or were doing something else besides being a fan of Tesla and their new electric vehicles. I'll also dive into some of the questions that you all had for me online that they didn't cover in the presentation, as well as some of my initial impressions of the vehicle after seeing it up close, as well as getting a test ride in it. So let's go ahead and dive in. This is Tesla's fourth production vehicle in their lineup, and if you follow their variants, they've got the Model S, they've got the Model 3, they've got the Model X, and now they have the Model Y. And if you're paying attention to that naming convention, yes, you're right, this does spell sexy, and they mention this or use this naming convention several times in the presentation and throughout the night. I'll get into some of your questions as well as my first impressions here in just a moment, but let's talk about some of the basic specs that they announced last night.
The Model Y. Yeah. So, like the 3, it will be extremely safe. So that you may know the Model 3 has the lowest probability of injury of any car ever tested by the US government. The Model Y, we expect, will have a similar result. 5 stars in every category. With the battery pack low in the floor, it's going to have a very low center of gravity. So this will, it has the functionality of an SUV, but it will ride like a sports car. So this thing will be really tight in corners. And we expect it will be the safest mid-size SUV in the world by far. And at Tesla, we actually always design with safety as the #1 goal. It's like people think, okay, performance, sure, but safety first. This is actually by far the most important thing. But it's also going to have incredible performance. So we expect to have a 3.5 seconds 0 to 60. Yeah, it's good. And very low center of gravity, so great handling. It's testing out at a 0.23 drag coefficient, which is extremely good for an SUV. And in terms of range, 300 miles. Yeah. So we expect to have an EPA range of, an actual true usable range of 300 miles. So, yeah. Yeah. From an interior standpoint, it has a panoramic glass roof. And by the way, after I'm done here, you guys will be able to come up and check out the car. So it's so it's going to have a panoramic glass roof. It really feels like, just like the Model 3, if you're in the car, it just feels like you can see the sky. Seat 7, 66 cubic feet. Obviously autopilot and all that. And as I've said publicly, we expect to be feature complete with self-driving sometime later this year. And then as we prove out the safety with billions of miles and kilometers, we will, from our standpoint, feel it's safe enough to not pay attention and then get the regulatory approval sometime thereafter. But the cool thing is feature complete. It'll be able to do basically anything by the end of this year. Just with software upgrades, which is pretty cool. So the basically long-range one we expect to be about $47,000, and then sometime in 2021 we'll have the sort of standard version, which will have a $39,000 price point. So yeah. No, the 7 seats are optional. Yeah. Do you mean the liftgate? Yes. Okay. I mean, you never know. We might do better than this, but so it should be at least this good. So I think it's going to be very, really compelling. I'm confident that it'll be of any mid-size SUV, it'll be the one you want. Yeah, I think it'll probably sell. I think we'll probably do more Model Ys than S, X, and 3 combined, most likely. Yeah. So So there you have the sexy presentation. So
the cost of the Model Y will begin at $38,000, and if you max it out and get the performance version, it's going to go up to just under $75,000. They now have a configurator for the Model Y up and available on their website. So you can go in and actually look at the different options and place an order. Now, when you get to the end of that order page or process, it's going to ask for $2,500. This is a little bit different of a take than what they did at the Model 3 event. If you remember, you actually had to either put your $1,000 reservation in online or go stand in line at one of the stores. Production for the Model Y is expected to begin in late 2020, and it will start in North America first. So first in the United States and Canada, then it's going to roll out to some additional countries. I'll give you the list here. They've got Mexico, China, Norway, Netherlands, Germany, Switzerland, Sweden, Austria, Belgium, and Spain. They say that after North American deliveries that then they'll start next on Europe and China in early 2021. If we're factoring in that Elon time here, we may not see Model Y deliveries for North America until early 2021 and Europe and China late 2021. Let's get into some of the questions that you all were very curious about that they didn't cover in the presentation. And one of the ones that I saw most common was, will the car have a tow hitch? And the answer is, I actually do not know yet. I would expect so, knowing that the Model X does have towing capabilities. So maybe let's just make an assumption that it will, but maybe a little bit less of a towing capacity than the Model X. What about the third row in the Model Y? How much room is there? I've got to be honest, I'm quite surprised that Tesla's marketing this for 7 adults because I don't think that grown adults will fit in that third row. I don't think there's going to be a lot of headroom for sure, and the legroom is going to be extremely tight. It actually reminds me in terms of size, it reminds me a little bit of when Tesla used to offer the jump seats in the Model S. You couldn't fit an adult back there. It was more designed for smaller people. I think the Model Y's third row is going to be the same. Of course, it's important to clarify that the third row of the Model Y will be facing forward and not back like the jump seats in the old Model S. What about the room in the second row, which was another question that I saw from you all? It was pretty generous, I would say. I noticed that I didn't have to sit down as low in the Model Y as I do Model S and 3, so it did sit a little bit higher. The leg room was ample and plenty. I didn't have any issues with my legs hitting the back of the front seats. Headroom was very generous. I didn't notice that I was touching the glass. I did notice that my head was sort of bumping up against the headliner of the side of the car. Shoulder room was sort of what I would expect for a smaller vehicle like that. My shoulders were up against the person next to me, and my right shoulder was up against the right side of the car. So it's not a Suburban, but I think that that is okay since this is a compact SUV, or I'd probably call it more like a crossover. It reminded me a little bit of the Jaguar I-Pace in terms of size and height. Next question was, what was that glass roof like? Well, if you can imagine a windshield of a Model 3, it's going to be the same as the Model Y, but the all-glass roof that you see in the Model S, that's what they did with this Model Y, and I think it's quite spectacular. It was a little bit different from what I expected and predicted with the Model Y. I thought they were going to add the all-glass panoramic windshield like they've got in the X, which I tend to lean a little bit more towards for a number of reasons. But still very, very impressive, very expansive, very wide, of course. It gives you ample headroom for every person in the vehicle, and I think a lot of people are really going to enjoy it. How about the hatch? They didn't demonstrate it opening and closing, but I was told by one of the engineers that was driving the car that it will be an automatic hatch, so you'll be able to open and close that with the touchscreen, your phone, as well as the button actually on the hatch. What about the storage space in the hatch? Well, though they haven't announced any specific specs, I would probably put the cubic space in between Model S and Model 3, somewhere in between there in terms of size. If you've got that third row up, I think there's going to be next to no space to put things back there. If you put the third row of seats down or you opt not to get that third row, then I think that's where you'll get that space that's sort of between Model S and Model 3. What are my overall thoughts about this vehicle? I think it's really, really impressive and very much what we expected, built off of the Model 3 platform, sharing about 75% of the same parts as the Model 3, as well as 10% larger than that 3. More specifically, the front portion of the car looks very much like a Model 3. The hood, the lights, that front fascia, you can tell that they took a lot of cues from the Model 3. But when you look at it from the side profile, you can tell that it looks more like a SUV similar to the Model X. It's got a larger back end, and that roof line does not swoop down as drastically once you get past that second row. And the reason why I think that is to fit that third row in the back of the Model Y. Fitting 7 adults in that vehicle, I think, is a bit of a stretch, and more specifically, that third row, I don't think the average size adult is going to fit back there. A smaller than average adult or adults, yes, probably. Kids, most definitely. I think if you've got young kids, there won't be any problems with kids sitting back there. It's probably not going to be the most favorite place to sit in that vehicle when you're traveling, especially long distances, but I think smaller than average adults and young kids should work. But if you're an average size or larger adult, there's no chance that you're going to fit back there, not only headroom, but also legroom. Overall, I think this is an incredibly great designed vehicle and something you would expect from the design studio of Franz von Holzhausen. When you factor everything together, the performance, range, hardware, software, supercharging network, I expect this car to sell extremely well, and I expect it to be at the top of its vehicle class, both gasoline and electric variants. Congratulations to Tesla for finally getting this vehicle out and available for people to put in their pre-orders. And a big thank you to the Tesla team for the invite to this event. I had a ton of fun. It was great to see all the familiar faces that create content online on YouTube, as well as a lot of my fans and followers who follow this channel. So thank you for taking the time to walk up and chat a little bit, and great to see you all. I want to send a special thank you as well to all of my Patreon supporters who are sending some cash my way to help me do these electric vehicle events and cover all of the electric vehicle news. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, and if you're a regular, hit the like button, and I'll see everyone on the next video.